On November 27th, 2023, Merriam-Webster declared that their word of the year was authentic. If you're like most people, you probably read that headline and went, huh, and then moved on with your life. 2023 wasn't just the year for authentic, it was also the year for the new right-wing darling, Brett Couper. During that year, she saw her channel rise enormously, and currently the comment section with Brett Couper now has over 4 million.
She kind of carries the Daily Wire franchise a little bit. It's not even a joke.
Subscribers, and she's one of the most prominent voices on the conservative media company, the Daily Wire. For those that love her, she's the bright-eyed, clever Zoomer who is giving a youthful face to conservative commentary, and her detractors would describe her as a phony cutout regurgitating propaganda while gaming social media. I wanted to dig a little deeper than either of those readings though, and understand her not just through the videos she creates, but the context she exists in and how it reflects our own desire for authenticity. Although she was born in Bellingham, Washington, Brett Couper was raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Her upbringing included a mix of homeschooling and public education, and she emancipated herself at 15 to avoid being caught in the middle of her parents' divorce. She describes her upbringing as being focused on values, leading to her conservative political position in the present. Those values, particularly from her objectivist mother, with whom she is very close, were directly influenced by Ayn Rand.
But I was not raised in a political household by any means. My mom is a student of objectivism. She adopted Ayn Rand's cat after she died.
I couldn't find a record of the cat's name, but I hope it was called Feel Ayn Rand. Although it's been speculated that she was indoctrinated by her mother, Brett Couper pushes back on that idea.
You know, I've had people say like...
Typical BreadTuber, by the way. Cat lover, makes a cat joke. Anyway, no disrespect to Jose. He seems to be good.
Your mother indoctrinated you. And I was like, well, what would you say would be indoctrination? Like, I was not, being told about political policies or anything like that. She just raised me as any good parent would, with the values that she believed were important.
This is a fair point and an important step to understanding how Couper ended up where she did. A child having the same politics as their parent is not necessarily a product of brainwashing, and is likely just a product of growing up in the same household. It's much easier to just say that Brett Couper's politics were shaped by her upbringing, and having a close relationship with an objectivist mother obviously would inform her views in the future. At a young age, Brett Couper took an interest in acting and eventually found enough success that she moved to Los Angeles. Perhaps her most notable role was in the 2018 series Heathers, based on the movie.
I didn't know Brett had a mom/dad. I just assumed Ben vibrated so quick one morning he split into two beings. Dude, yes. That is the truth, by the way. Jose is lying. That is my headcanon. That is actually how I believe Brett Couper came about. Kind of like Adam and Eve. Ben just bat her out in his own image.
Movie of the same name. It ran for a single season, and Couper explains its cancellation as a result of heavy edits made in response to a recent school shooting.
And because there's gun violence in Heathers, they scrapped it and basically...
Wait, she's also a failed actress? What the hell is going on, man? Bro, I swear to God, if you want to know the next wave of political commentators on the right, just look to whichever show is getting canceled, okay? God damn. The Daily Wire cast is literally filled to the brim with people who have been quote unquote over by Hollywood. Is LA Dog 80% of them are?
Recut the entire TV show, took out a lot of the offensive parts, and then aired it, and then Paramount said, you're not doing another season. This was too politically incorrect.
While working in Los Angeles, Couper started moving away from acting towards the production side of the entertainment industry. She explains that at the time she felt she had little control of her life as an actor and wanted to make some kind of change but still be involved in creating entertainment. While on the production side, though, she became increasingly disenchanted. She started to feel a rising sense of politics in the industry and that her own values were not being represented.
And then during BLM and COVID, the entire industry just became so political. And my job became less about find good stories and more about, could you find a Native American story for us? Could you find a Black story for us? Like, rather than just reading scripts for the value in them, it was like, we need something that is like politically woke. We need to be on the cusp of this. And I understood it because that is what was making money at the time. That's what people wanted. And there was a lot of pressure. I was like, okay, now I don't like this. Like, that doesn't feel authentic to me.
That's an interesting use of the term authentic, and it speaks to how her values shape her career trajectory. During the 2020 COVID lockdowns, Couper started making social media videos for PragerU and Young Americans for Liberty, perhaps feeling that this was a more authentic expression of her values. She was eventually contacted by the Daily Wire, who saw her as a good fit for a project they were developing.
Classic.
What would eventually be called the comment section with Brett Couper was not Couper's idea originally, but rather came from young people within the Daily Wire.
For the record, I clocked clocked this literally as it came about. If you recall back in the day, my first ever video on Brett Couper at a time when she had like 100,000 subscribers before she fucking absolutely cumstered and dumpstered my ass on the YouTube equation, on the YouTube algorithm. I literally was like, what is this shit? This is like a fake live stream. It's not even a real, it's no different than the way that, like, you know how on TikTok you'll see fake podcasts because it's supposed to like show more professionalism. That's why TikTokers will make like fake podcasts to get clips off. In a way, the Daily Wire was trying to emulate what I was doing at the time for many, many years at this point, and were literally trying to create like a fake stream, a fake streamer persona inside of a studio, which obviously still worked. She popped off on YouTube Shorts, genuinely one of the worst features YouTube has introduced. So many right-wing hacks. Yeah.
It was all people my age. They were sitting in the Daily Wire offices saying, we need content for us.
Brett Couper was discovered by Daily Wire staffer Gracie Blount-Crook.
I spent like 3 weeks scouring the internet for like...
Yeah, I do remember.
Do you think Hasan Piker is hot?
No. Why do you think it's so hard? No! She belongs to the chat. She belongs to the chat. Yes, in some photos. Please be lying.
Recently, don't like the hair. Before, yes.
Okay. Okay. Fair. I mean, he is.
Yeah, he's built.
Do you think...
No!
Hold this L, you goober. Different time. That was 2022, baby. August 31st, 2022. We had 40,000 people watching 4 hours into the broadcast. Now 4 hours into the broadcast, we got 18,000 motherfuckers watching. Maybe I should have never cut my hair, dude. Oscord exposed you yet again. Is that why he cut the hair? Yeah, that's why I cut the hair, dude. Years later. Anyway, let's continue.
Young, cute girls who could like be the host of the show or whatever. And I found you. And I remember very distinctly slacking Kobe and saying, BC is my girl. Like, we have to go with her or whatever.
Crook also designed the set with the help of her mother, and according to Couper, it cost a few $1,000s to put together. This YouTube channel's videos would be shot with a 3-camera setup, and we see Brett Couper make use of that throughout many of her videos. The first video to the comment section was uploaded on March 1st, 2022.
Okay, so we all do it. We stay up way later than we should, laying in bed, scrolling on Instagram and TikTok, trying to find content that is not angry leftists having a meltdown.
I'm not sure what her exact resources were when she debuted, but in a September 2022 video, we were introduced to Brett Couper's team, which consists of 5 different people providing support. Since this video was in 2022, and according to the LinkedIn pages of the people mentioned, at least one of them doesn't work at the Daily Wire anymore, it's hard to know what the status of this team is today. She does still have a team though, and at the very least, there's this guy named Jared who seems to be with her as of February 2024. We saw him during a live stream when she had to call for some tech support.
Jared's coming to save the day because he has... because he has the login.
According to Brett Couper, she writes all her videos with her team handling video editing and social media posting. Brett Couper's start on YouTube was unlike most other video creators on here. She had a team working with her, financial resources to build a set, and access to an existing audience on the Daily Wire. This isn't to say Couper is a puppet, but rather was set up with an enormous amount of resources behind her, all to cultivate a brand around her videos.
People that are critical of the show or whatever will say, like, oh, this must be a top-down show. Like, you're told what to say. You're just an arm of, you know.
Do they literally organize paid orbiters too? No, paid orbiters come directly from just like being in the Daily Wire network. Her trademark to make this all look real is that 1 foot on the chair like a gamer. Yeah. Ben
Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, but it's not the case at all. Like, I have total, you know, veto power over, you know, my show. I write the segments. I put it together. I have a very different brand than the other hosts.
The unique brand she has is where the performance comes comes in. It's not so much that she doesn't believe anything she says, but rather the way in which it's presented creates a manufactured authenticity. The look of the show carefully mimics the standard video, vlogger, or live streamer setup, as if we're visiting a friend in their private space to have a friendly chat about a topic. It's a style that countless other faces on YouTube and Twitch have cultivated and imitated for years. It's something audiences associate with an authentic person on the other end sharing their opinions about pretty much everything. Brett Cooper's headphones and giant microphone create the impression of a streamer in her bedroom. All of this is to create the feeling of someone who doesn't exist in the typical studio setup of most other commentators, although in this case she does, and this is all just cosplay. These are produced segments filmed on a set by someone hired to fill a role. It's the performance of an authentic experience. A big part of Brett Cooper's success early on was her use of YouTube Shorts. She very quickly racked up millions of views, and her most successful short has a staggering 40 million views.
Oh my lord, why didn't I get in on the shorts train, man? Not that it would have mattered, because the reality is that shorts favor reactionary content as opposed to other, left-leaning leftist content. Probably made $5 off those 4 millions, bro. Dog, are you kidding me? This is nothing. YouTube is not about making money, silly. She's not making any money off of her YouTube page. Daily Wire is making money off of her YouTube page anyway. But that's precisely you're missing the point. My point is she got a lot of social capital. She got a lot of reach off of that.
In addition to adopting that relatively new format on YouTube, she also commented on trending topics on social media, something that's still a standard in how she operates. So let's look at some of her more recent videos.
Do you still think her channel is astroturfed
Women
up the
can
ass?
get quite hairy. Exactly.
Wait, what is this clip? This clip has nothing to do with
These pictures are
anything.
just horrifying. I'm trying to normalize this. We don't need to normalize that. We really don't. Nope. If dudes are expected to be almost...
By the way, when you're astroturf like a motherfucker, 2.56 million subscribers, like, it don't matter.
There it is. This is in the end. I do think it's astroturf. This video literally is proving that the astroturfed allegation.
The major topics she touches on is gender politics, often discussing dating and how young adults find their way in the world. Typically, she uses these stories to...
She is engaging, not gonna lie. Yeah, because you're horny, dude. I mean, that's kind of my appeal too, to a certain degree. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's just what it is. It's a way to get your foot through the door. Lucky for you, I try to use that to sell good things rather than bad things, bad ideas. I sell you good ideas rather than bad ideas. She looks 14, huh? First of all, she's a grown-ass woman, number one. Don't do this weird shit. And number two, like, yes, being appealing to the eye is absolutely a part of the brand here. She does not look 14. Shut up. Some of you guys are so weird, dude. She's like a grown-ass woman, and chatters are saying she's married. So shut the fuck up.
Deliver a message of reverting to traditional gender norms or pushing other conservative talking points regarding sex and gender. In the video, Bumble does not understand women. She's reacting to the dating app, adding an optional feature that lets women use a pre-written opening message instead of having to write an original one for each match. One way in which Brett Cooper differs from other hosts at the Daily Wire is that she's often willing to speak with some kindness towards the people she's critiquing, at least some of the time. But these moments are brief and subservient to the less thoughtful right-wing talking points she often uses instead.
It's like, if you actually wanted to rebrand and make the app better, you should let people on the app filter things like religion and politics for free, because according to your comment section, that is the #1 thing that people want. Apparently there are multiple pay levels, and you have to pay a premium every month if you even want to see what somebody's religion is and filter based on that, which is absurd.
That's all well and good, but it's also only in the final minute of the video. Before that, it was 8 minutes of stuff like this.
Like, this is so classic. They are reverting to traditional norms, as we always do, but they can't say that, of course. They have to pretend like this is revolutionary so that they can keep going with their feminist nonsense.
Here's another example, this time from the video. Women believe bears are safer than men. This is responding to a social media trend where women expressed how they've been so traumatized by sexual assault that they would feel safer with a bear than a strange man. It was meant to illustrate a very real fear experienced by women, and Brett Cooper
Why does she look like she's in a Swedish prison? Oh, the man versus bear shit.
very close to addressing that point in the video.
Violence is sadly very prevalent in our society, and it's heartbreaking to see that so many women genuinely believe that a bear would be safer.
Coming in only halfway through the video, this would seem to set it up for a very interesting and nuanced conversation about how women express their discomfort, and perhaps how men can do a better job of picking up on that. But instead we get...
When humans have been asked what species should prevail on Earth, they don't even say their own kind.
Instead of discussing the traumatic impact of sexual violence and how it was highlighted by this trend on social media, this video is actually about how people are too anti-human.
You can care for the earth that feeds us and keeps us alive and breathing and healthy without hating yourself and calling for your own extinction.
I think women just...
I think she does a pretty good job of softening like hardline right-wing positions. That I will admit, both with her aesthetic appeal, but also with like the way she communicates her positions. It's never, I hate the Civil Rights Act. Like, you're not going to catch her saying shit like that. She's supposed to be like a more moderate right-wing force that gets your foot in through the door. I've never seen her go like so far that she has like a Candace Owens style nuclear take. It's very good. It's very good entry-level propaganda. This is precisely the reason why dumbasses in the chat are like, please have her on the Fear End podcast, please, Haas. She's still a right-wing propagandist paid by Daily Wire. But some of you fucking idiots are too stupid to see that. No, she's not anti-me. I have a lot of fucking reaction inducing takes. I have a lot of takes that are far beyond the edges of what the normal American would consider to be appropriate. I am nowhere near as manufactured or manicured as Brett Couper is. That's the difference. That is precisely the reason why people catch me slipping, or people people can clip me out of context and shit like that. That's the difference there. The other difference is because I have to be authentic. I cannot be inauthentic because I'm doing this for 8 to 9 hours throughout day. So that's the thing. She, on the other hand, can merely present herself as this person who is streaming when in fact she's just simply going in there, doing an hour-long read and clipping it down to like 20-minute sequences at most, 10-minute sequences at most. So in that process, she can maintain this facade that she is like an authentic commentator, just simply talking to you from her bedroom, when in fact she's not doing that. She is it is no different than sitting behind a Ben Shapiro style desk and reading her laptop in the way that he does.
Want men to stop sexually assaulting them. How did we end up talking about people leading humanity to self-extinction? There's a web of talking points.
She did a great job of deflecting away from that position. See?
Connecting these narratives together, but the leaps in logic she makes creates commentary that isn't informative. It's just a jumbled mess. It's very hard to understand what people are getting from these videos sometimes, but when you read the comments under them, a message is getting through. And in this one video about women and bears, we can see an overriding message about how women, or Generation Z, just aren't that bright. Here are some examples of highly upvoted comments under this video. I can't bear the stupidity of this generation anymore. The same women who say they're safe around bears will run to the safety of a man as soon as an actual bear shows up. If a lady wants to pick a bear to hang out with in the forest over a man, I don't see the issue. She wants to go out in a very unique, terrifying, and excruciatingly painful way and feed the wildlife in the process. Unless it's a bear cub, but the mama bear is probably nearby, so you're probably checking out either way. Oh well, do what you do. Boo. Brett Cooper's videos are often designed to badmouth people in her gender and her generation. That's kind of the point of her commentary. Although she doesn't go as hard as some other commentators, it's very much a running theme, and is very consistent with a lot of messaging in the conservative space. In that sense, she is advocating for her ideals in that it lines up with a very specific conservative worldview, apparently unaware or willing to ignore that those ideals happen to dump all over women and Generation Z, often on spurious terms, and since she's joining in on that kind of mockery, she can safely consider herself one of the good ones, even if it means selling out other women and girls who are just like her. The video that best encapsulates what I mean is they took the boy out of Boy Scouts, where we see Brett Couper upset that the Boy Scouts of America are changing their name to Scouting America.
When I was a kid, I desperately wanted to be a Boy Scout. Everything they did sounded so much fun. You know, they would come home for the camping trips. I just like desperately wanted to go. But of course, because I was a girl, joining the Boy Scouts was not an option. Obviously, duh. My mom was like, suck it up, babe. There's nothing you can do.
There's something really sad about this. A little girl just like Brett Couper now has an opportunity that she didn't and desperately wanted, and Couper seems to think this is a bad thing.
This will be a simple but very important evolution as we seek to ensure that everyone feels welcome in scouting. Everyone did feel welcome. That's why this is so ridiculous. There was boy and girl scouts.
Everyone felt welcome, except literally her, who was not allowed to do.
I think the funniest part about the Boy Scouts shit is that it literally was done directly to just like neutralize the massive amounts of sexual assault and abuse that was happening in the Boy Scouts of America. They were like, oh dude, let's rebrand. Let's do the woke thing. We're no longer Boy Scouts. We're Scouts. That's it. That rebrand came directly in that news coverage that was happening about how there were numerous accounts of serial sexual assaulters in the ranks of the Boy Scouts. So they turned around and were like, oh, we're the Scouts now. And then everyone, including these dumbasses on the right, immediately dove in head first into that culture war pond. The logic being they won't sexually assault women? No, the logic being the name change will eat at the algo, will eat away at the SEO, and absolutely zero people will give a shit about the sexual assault. And they were right. That's why absolutely zero people know about the many sexual assaults that were happening, and everybody knows about Boy Scouts changed their name to Scouts. They very successfully diverted the attention away from a looming PR catastrophe. Their numbers were falling. They needed to shore up numbers. I'm sure that was another reason. This kind of stuff is pretty indecent in general. Like aesthetic liberalism and aesthetic diversity measures such as this one are so expertly and so cynically weaponized. It's basically like a parachute. Right-wingers do a similar version of this, obviously, or people who are like apolitical centrist content creators in general. When they see their numbers declining even a little bit, they'll immediately hit the I hate trans people line bar for bar, like Aiden Ross did, you know, or Sneeko, or many other examples. Like they always do that. This is like the liberal version of that, when they're like, oh shit, am I in trouble? Kevin Spacey, I'm coming out as a gay man, said Kevin Spacey after accusations of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, and improper relations with minors. It's all good though, because all of those lawsuits have fallen apart mysteriously in many instances. So who knows?
The cool stuff Boy Scouts did because she was a girl and the Girl Scouts didn't offer the same activities. It seems needlessly harsh telling other little girls to suck it up when the very easy solution of letting girls join the Scouts has existed.
Yeah, here's how you know my shit ain't manufactured, because I've been picking my goddamn nose nonstop for the past week or so, because I have like it's just like painful. I don't know what it is. There's like a pain in my nose and I just can't, and it gets itchy and I need to itch it. That's how you know. I need to itch it. Can't stop myself. It might be a zit. I don't know what it is. It might be a nose hair, but it's really, really, really annoying, and I'm probably making it worse.
Existed for several years now. The principle supposedly being argued for here is that boys and girls need spaces exclusive to one another.
Male camaraderie and community is vital. They need to play together. They need to learn together. They need to fight together. They need to push themselves away from girls. Just like girls need spaces to grow together away from men. That is important.
This supposed principle really just boils down to administering strict gender roles into children. Camping, jamborees, paddling, and other outdoor activities aren't inherently gendered, but presenting these as the domain of boys is just a way to exclude girls. Girls like Brett Couper. When getting into a bit of the history of the Boy Scouts, this video goes in a very weird direction though, when we see Brett Couper wax nostalgically about what appears to be the introduction to the first Boy Scouts field guide.
This, it will be seen, is a reproduction of the condition that ended in the fall of Rome. In her days of growth, every man was a soldier. In the end, a few great gladiators were in the arena, to be watched and applauded by the millions who personally knew nothing at all of fighting or heroism. Degeneracy is the word.
For anyone familiar with far-right dog whistles,
yeah, we need to make sure that everyone's a soldier by going to the Boy Scouts. Is so stupid. I mean, Jesus Christ, probably a good activity to go outside and like learn how to camp and tie knots and shit. I myself was a Boy Scout in Turkey. I didn't really like it. I thought it was whack. But like, goddamn.
The fall of Rome and the term degeneracy are very big ones. And to hammer it home, she gives us the classic far-right meme.
I genuinely do not think that I have seen a better example of that maxim, that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times, and then again, hard times create strong men.
This commentary, especially in regard to Rome, is deeply silly. An article by historian Brett Devereaux provides context when he wrote, Western cultural memory fixes on the Gauls, Vandals, and Huns who broke the Roman frontier, but it is quick to forget the rather long list of non-state peoples broken by the Romans. The Samnites, Cimbri, Teutons, Ambrones, Helvetians, Ubronis, Arveni, Celtiberians, Lusitanians, Pannones, Dalmatae, Catuvellani, Iceni, Marcomanni, Quadi, Yazyges, and all the other hard people crushed under the Romans do not become household.
It could be a cold sore or oral herpes. Bro, I can't even fucking say my nose is itchy without some chatter diagnosing me with herpes, bro. I swear to fucking god.
Most successful large states in history can boast similar butcher's bills. On closer inspection, hard times creating strong men turns out to be a child's version of history, simplistic and unhelpful. The invincible barbarian, or insurgent, or terrorist was always just a mirage, a trap in strategic thinking. This poor reading of history has been used throughout the years and in recent history by right-wing figures trying to enforce strict gender rules and a more authoritarian style of government that fashioned young men into soldiers rather than simply letting them choose how they wanted to grow up in society. But even worse than misreading history, we also have an example of Brett Couper navigating gender topics and getting science completely wrong in the video Stop Playing Politics with the Pill, in which she fearmongers about birth control pills. I suggest checking out Dr. Danielle Jones's video response to hear what an actual doctor has to say about this subject.
I'm willing to bet that she does the exact same shit there too. If we were to watch Brett Couper's video, she'd be like, oh guys, who amongst us hasn't had a weird hookup and felt conflicted about it later? It's normal to feel this way. Do not order over-the-counter birth control or abortion pills. Do not.
Nothing in that video was helpful or beneficial. It was fear-mongering.
All of this light and not so light commentary on gender issues is not informed by facts or even decent research. Rather, it's a strict adherence to ideology and finding whatever little bits and pieces of evidence support it. It does raise the question that when she gets lost in a topic, going from talking about bears to the extinction of humanity, or argues against something that seems like she should naturally support, like wanting to let young girls into scouting so they can enjoy all the activities she wanted to do as a child, it raises the very obvious question of, is this how she really feels? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter though. In some way, shape, or form, she probably does believe what she's saying, but her role in all this and what she truly believes doesn't matter as much as what she's putting out into the world. And that's why the aesthetics become so important. Presenting her as an authentic, genuine person creates the impression that these videos are expressing a form of genuine politics. In the video, we're back, baby. Brett Couper celebrates various conservative wins within the culture. In this instance, frat boys protecting American flags and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs being scaled back.
Now, in the same vein, which is just so epic, we are seeing even more change and resistance across the country, specifically from these frat boys.
Other wins include Target not having a pride display this year, and lots of news on social media posts. As Gen Z faces climate change, inflation, and a housing crisis, the conservative vision of winning means getting some dunks on social media. It's hard to imagine someone polling for this, but looking at the numbers, some people clearly do. Here's one comment. I'm in high school in Tien, and I got a lot of hope when some random kids started handing out American flags to people in the hallway. What Brett Couper is presenting here is a counterfeit for having real politics, which is what this comment so perfectly illustrates. I hate to break it to anyone who loves flags, but they're fabric and don't have any intrinsic value. They're symbols, and they don't always mean the same things to different people. And the emphasis on the flag reflects a type of politics that ignores the material realities people live with and emphasizes instead symbols that make them feel good but may not necessarily reflect the reality in which we all share. This comment, I suspect, is alluding to the frat boy story I mentioned a little bit earlier. As a bit of a quick recap, the story of the frat boys at UNC Chapel Hill who surrounded the American flag isn't the brave act of courage.
Dude, this was so funny. Like, God, the conservative movement is so weak and feeble in many respects that this was it for so many people. They were like, hell yeah, dude. They're so fucking, God, these frat boys, man, they're doing the dang thing. How dare our flag touch the ground, brother?
That Brett Couper presented it as. Rather, it's them standing as a bulwark against a valid form of protest. Early in the day, pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, meanwhile, they literally were also holding up Israeli flags, but I guess that was not factored into the equation at all.
Demonstrators had taken down the American flag and replaced it with a Palestinian one to protest their university's financial ties to Israel in light of the violence in Gaza. When the Palestinian flag was taken down by the police and replaced by the American one, the demonstrators tried to put it back, only to be met by the frat boys who formed a barrier around the flagpole. The frat boys were effectively...
Yeah, Bill Ackman helped raise $500,000 for those guys. They're a rager. They're just such lame asses in general.
Silencing a form of protest, which is an important part of free expression, all to defend and a symbol of that expression. In this case, a symbol of freedom becomes more important than the actual freedom, and is then celebrated because it supports a particular type of right-wing politics. And so these boys became heroes who are given $500,000 to have a wild party, not because of them engaging in some kind of brave political action, but because they served as useful props to demonize a group of protesters the right would like silenced. Here's a comment from one of the frat boys named Alex Jones. Not to be confused with the conspiracy theory radio host, it's just a coincidence that they have the same name. For me, protecting the flag was not about taking a stance within the ongoing Israel-Palestine discourse. I recognize the pain and suffering experienced by both sides of that conflict, but my decision yesterday to protect the flag of the United States was not about any other nation. It was simply about the importance of our country and the values we believe in. Not every frat boy had such a hollow reason though, and I will give more credit to the frat boys who only joined in because they wanted to support Israel, because that's a lot closer to a genuine expression of political activism. Although in this case, their activism is support for an ongoing genocide. But to the other frat boys who were talking about laying their lives down for a flag and what it represents, they are silencing a demonstration for a literal symbol of allowing that protest to happen. This is what I mean by counterfeit politics that Brett Couper is endorsing, where symbolic gestures matter more than material actions, at least when the symbolism is conservative. And it's a shame that she's been so successful in reaching young people with the message that saluting the flag matters more than upholding the ideals it supposedly represents. This isn't to say everyone is falling for this. Other creators on YouTube, including Gabby Bell, have great videos looking at Brett Couper's work that reveals
she looks exactly like Ben Shapiro. I think
True.
she looks more like Ben Shapiro than Ben Shapiro's sister looks like Ben Shapiro.
Brett Couper's videos
True.
have this highly produced vibe that attempts to camouflage her in this React space, but she hopelessly gives away the game with its boomer-esque splicing of movie and
Why is protecting the flag a bad thing? I highly doubt even supported Israel. They're just being American college kids. First of all, there were literally kids right there that were holding up the Israeli flag next to the American flag. That's number one. And number two, you're not first of all, the flag. I thought this was America, goddammit. You can shit on the flag if you want to. You can wipe your fucking ass with the American flag, okay? It's our God-given, constitutionally protected right, okay? So you are actually un-American for being like, oh, brother, I have to defend the flag. That's number one. Number two, did you just miss the entire segment that this dude carefully went through in what the flag protection was being done to represent, to demonstrate? It was anti-Palestinian demonstrations. That was the whole point. It was a aesthetically vague gesture towards American dominance in a situation where America's participating in a genocide. So that's the second thing. In any case, a lot of people who are otherwise, kind-hearted and empathetic individuals such as yourself will fall for symbolic gestures of this kind because it is a given. Of course you're going to protect the flag. What do you mean? This is America, damn it. I love America. I love the American flag. It's the greatest country on the planet. These are the things that you're conditioned into believing. So therefore, you immediately get duped into this idea, into the story about these beautiful frat boys protecting America. Thank God they did that. So they were going to take down the American flag just to put up a different flag? Yes, they did take down the American flag to put up a Palestinian flag as a symbol of Palestinian emancipation, to say we are here, to say this college campus is in support of Palestine and the Palestinians who are victim to America's participation in the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. Now, having said that, however, of course, that ended up in this demonstration that you are defending currently, where people went in and said, no, this isn't America. I mean, this ain't Palestine, brother. We do genocide and we defend that genocide, and we will ride the Israeli flag alongside the American flag. Hell yeah, baby. That's what they did. Do you understand?
TV clips. Some of these cutaways are references that are so old, I can't imagine she has the faintest clue what they are.
Benny Blanco is not a quad six, and he has Selena Gomez wrapped around his pinky finger.
Maybe there's hope for you yet.
That was a cutaway to The Dukes of Hazzard, a show that ran from 1979 to 1985, ending 16 years before Brett Couper was even born. This sort of reference is fitting in that Brett Couper's commentary often sounds like it's coming out of your grandpa's mouth, but I suspect any youths who recognize the Duke boys are probably only understanding that because their dad or grandpa sat them down and made them watch a couple of episodes. Another way these videos feel very artificial is when we get to the ad reads. Brett Couper slides into them seamlessly.
We are all sharing the same problems and grievances. We are all fighting this mind virus together. And if you're fighting your own virus, you might need Jace Medical.
This is very goofy and completely unnatural, and and these ad reads take up so much time in each video. The example I showed you ran for a minute in a video that was only 7 minutes and 21 seconds long. That's close to 14% of the video's runtime devoted to an ad. Other videos aren't quite so bad, but still give up a lot of runtime to advertise these products, often close to 10% of a video. These kinds of ads are pretty common on YouTube, so Brett Couper participating in them isn't that strange, but coming from such a big business production, they hit differently. This isn't Brett Couper, who has taken up video blogging as a personal project, who's found a way to make...
People are ridiculous. The top of the hour ad break takes up 3 minutes out of the 60 minutes in an hour. 3 whole minutes. That's it. That's not 10%. 3 minutes. And not only that, but you can also avoid the ads at the top of the hour by subscribing.
Make some extra money. She's someone who is hired to fill a role, and part of that job includes reading ads. She's using the guise of an amateur when she's actually a professional. And usually the appeal of these ads is that they come from an amateur who is following a passion project and is therefore considered more trustworthy rather than some kind of celebrity who's just getting a paycheck to endorse a product they may or may not believe in. There's a line on the Daily Wire About page that reads, "We're building the future you want to see." And when they speak to their audience, they often use grandiose terms about how they're going to change the culture and take it back from the left. You'll also hear folks from the Daily Wire make reference to Andrew Breitbart's famous saying that politics is downstream from culture. It's important to remember that the Daily Wire is presenting itself as a political project, spreading conservative values. One of the major differences between the Daily Wire and other conservative advocacy groups is that the Daily Wire is run as a for-profit business. As such, it's far more aggressive with its advertising and other monetization practices, and its conservative branding is often a means for making a quick profit. Some examples are the anti-woke chocolate bars and razors of dubious quality. They're sold to people as if buying a chocolate bar is somehow political activism. It's very similar to the counterfeit politics we saw Brett Couper pushing in her videos, cynically telling people they can buy their way to a better world, or that the best way to celebrate free speech is to honor a flag than respect the voices of protesters. In the article, Constructing Authenticity, Social Media Influencers and the Shaping of Online Identity by Maureen Eben and Elizabeth.
Yeah, all the anti-woke products that they sell are so funny because it's the same ass cheeks bottom of the barrel product, but with just like conservative branding slapped onto it. I don't think that that is like even remotely profitable as a business. I think they were just like kind of testing it. There ain't no way there's enough dumbasses who would be like, hell yeah, brother, I'd rather get not gay Hershey's instead of just gay ass Hershey's, you know, especially when the price points are the way they are. Yeah. It's like pink tax, but for dumbasses. Exactly. Except the problem with pink tax is that if all the companies that sell feminine products are all applying that pink tax and there is no alternative to certain products like, you know, tampons or whatever, then you're kind of cooked. You know what I mean? You just have to pay more for the same shit because there's no alternative. That's the issue. Whereas this is even dumber than the pink tax. This just straight up is a dumbass tax where it's like, hell yeah, brother, I'm paying more because I want my chocolate bars to be anti-gay. Consumer activism is a perfectly understandable direction that conservatives will move in because that's all they give a shit about. That's all they chirp about. In a world where conservatives get pretty much everything they want, obviously there's like only one area where they aren't able to demonstrate their desires or forcibly push their desires upon the broader population. It's culture, it's consumer products and things of that nature. So then they just constantly chirp about that too, because the project demands that you forcibly enjoy conservative culture. Even if personally there isn't anything there that you are interested in, you must enjoy it. You must. It's not just about like, oh, these are my beliefs, okay, and I don't care if you don't agree with them. It's these are my beliefs and you must agree with them, which is ironic because it's a case of pure projection from conservatives that yell at the classic archetype of SJW, social justice warrior. Oh, they don't just want liberties for gay people. They want us to be gay. They won't shut the fuck up until I'm gay. You know, it's not the case at all. Exactly the opposite, as a matter of fact. Social justice warriors and leftists in general are oftentimes advocating for liberties for marginalized people, and conservatives have been able to perfectly package a counter to that as basically a means of turning them gay somehow. The gay agenda.
With Bull, the authors describe the complementary strategies of transparent authenticity and passionate authenticity. This is pairing advertisements that are transparent and presented with regular media that include an authentic persona. I probably don't need to tell many of you that a shoe company pledging to fight racism isn't doing that to be altruistic, and that it's a means to add value into the minds of potential customers and translate to more sales in the future. But it's worth repeating that fact because it works, or at least companies believe it works. It's presented as authenticity, but like the brief mention of Target earlier, and it's...
This doesn't mean that like diversity and representation, especially in culture and media, is a bad thing across the board. Especially when done right, it can be very positive. It's good to see yourself on screen. That's why I talk about, you know, Luka Doncic or Doncic, however you say his last name, or the Joker, okay, Jokic. Seeing a fat, schlubby white guy who's like significantly more out of shape than all of the other dudes on that court is going to Doncic. Okay, I'm an Ottoman son. Obviously, it is in my fucking epigenetic memories to not be able to say a Slovenian last name or a Serbian last name correctly for obvious historic reasons. My point is, wait, Doncic is not fat? I mean, they are schlubbier than the average athlete. My point is, I jokingly brought that up, but the reality of the matter is, like, seeing yourself represented on screen, especially if done in a decent way, if done in an authentic way, is good. It can be a positive thing. It can lead to people dreaming that they can also achieve these positions. This is not overall a bad thing. It's a nice thing. The problem with liberalism is that it's the only thing. And as a matter of fact, it's not only the only thing, but it's also the only thing worth fighting for, while simultaneously the very same corporation could literally be applying business practices that are harming those very same subsects of society that they're propping up in an aesthetic fashion. We saw examples of this during the Black Lives Matter movement, when in the aftermath of George Floyd's state-sanctioned, unjustifiable, extrajudicious murder in the hands of Derek Chauvin, there were a lot of protests. Black Lives Matter all of a sudden was co-opted by liberal outlets and liberal institutions. People basically had, you know, companies like Walmart were throwing up the black fist in support of Black Lives Matter. Now, while they were doing that, Walmart was also, you know, still actively funding local PBAs, police benevolence associations, and the like, giving them new cop cars, things of that nature. That was antithetical to the black fist that they were throwing up simultaneously. This is a phenomenal demonstration of the aesthetic front of liberalism co-opting social movements while simultaneously using that as a way to just, you know, stop you from paying attention to the actual impact, the tangible impact that they have in reinforcing the same exact dynamic, same exact unjustifiable hierarchy, same exact power struggle. Anyway, just so you understand.
Dropping of pride displays, these values can be jettisoned at a threat to the company's bottom line. The Daily Wire is not an exception to this marketing strategy. It's how they can opine about the supposed degeneracy of Hollywood while working with a production company that ignored one of its producers' long history of being a sexual predator. These conservative values, meant to signify the company's authenticity, become more flexible when it's time to make some money. To join the Daily Wire seems less like an authentic career path and more like joining a business that claims to have conservative values. And to an extent, I'm sure many of the people working there do have those values. But a quick look at the Glassdoor reviews for the Daily Wire reveal many former staffers who were attracted by the mission and were then chewed up by the demanding work hours and capricious leadership that uses the genuine desire these people have to help the conservative movement to exploit them as workers. To give you a better sense of that, here are a couple of the reviews. Must sell soul. Pros. At first it's cool. You're excited. Got your dream job sticking it to the leftist soy-riddled emasculated man. Famous people walk by. Nice. You made it. Cons. They blocked out the windows so you can't tell what time it is. They make it very clear they don't care about your work-life balance.
Wow, I'm shocked that a right-wing hyper-capitalist institution would do all of the expected, awful, devastating, no workplace protection having moves that they literally espouse on a daily basis. When you're hired by the Daily Wire as an editor and you're editing a video from Ben Shapiro, who's talking about how workers deserve less, does it not even enter your mind that perhaps he might be talking about you, the worker yourself, working hours on end, toiling away for someone else? When you watch a Daily Wire video and you get the vibes that Ben Shapiro might not exactly be too fond of workplace protections, do you not perhaps think this is not the best employer to work for? I don't know. Just something to consider. This is what I said. Literally, this is what I said about Steven Crowder. When people were leaving the Steven Crowder franchise, the Louder with Crowder franchise, and they were like, I could not believe the litany of lack of labor laws and litany of workplace violations that were occurring on a daily basis. I'm like, what do you think was going to happen? It's like joining the Klan and then being like, wow, you guys don't really like black people all that much. Brother, you joined the Klan. That's their thing. You joined the anti-worker organization. You got what they were saying openly. They weren't hiding it. They were being honest about it.
They said it in a town hall, which more so resembles a Hunger Games announcement, despite horrible things happening to people who work there because they had none. Bigwig owns a Tesla and gets in like Batman, but dresses as if gay. It's hilarious. They rail against the left as if they're any better. They ignore the real issues in favor of making fun of sad little leftists with half brains. When you start there, you're high on making a difference, but if you're not an idiot, you quickly realize the only difference you're really making is dividing neighbors, spreading hate. Real godly of y'all. If you have a real conscience, you will not like this place. Must be willing to sell soul to conservative devil. Of the 15 or so reviews, there are a few positive ones, although they strangely all seem to come at around October of 2022. There's a review here that sheds some light on why that is. You have been warned. Pros: you get to work with some really smart people, plus having the DW on your resume is like gold in conservative circles. You also get to make a real difference in the culture wars. Hashtag SBG for life. Cons: it's an incredibly toxic work environment.
What the fuck is SBG for life? Anyway, let's continue.
Notice how all the reviews on this site were negative up until recently, when there was a big influx of positive reviews, gushing with praise for the DW. LMAO. They are so transparent. The constant negative reviews were hurting recruitment, so they astroturfed a bunch of positive reviews to try to hide the truth. And the truth is, I don't know if—
oh God, does he mean Sweet Baby Gang? Matt Walsh? Oh God, this guy's so brain broken.
Anyone at the Daily Wire who is happy. The firings and the resignations have reached crisis levels. Everyone has at least one eye on the door. I would never want anyone I care about to work here.
Yeah, I wonder why. For two reasons, by the way. One, because it's a media company, and media companies are notoriously difficult to keep in the green, especially when, you know, advertisement dollars dry up or whatever. Even though I would expect conservative media companies to do a lot better in that field. One, because there's a steady flow of dollars coming in, advertisers that want to work with you because you have a decently sized audience. But more importantly, I suspect conservative companies have big dollar donors that are funding them in times of need. So I'm kind of shocked that they would have these kinds of like downsizing fears at the Daily Wire.
Terrible, unethical company. Pros: there is no pros to working at this company. It is built on lies. Cons: many cons. The founder of this company is truly a terrible human being and has created an organization based on lies and unethical behavior. The company is so disorganized and has no clear direction or philosophy. Its mission is to spread lies, sadly. There is also a lack of transparency. A company full of narcissists. Advice to management: it's 2022. This company needs to be shut down already. No real values. The Daily Wire seems like a miserable place to work, and many of these reviews are clear.
Executive leadership think they're the salt of the earth. They couldn't care less about the employees. All of the reviews have summed it nicely. Positive ones were written after HR asked folks to write them. Dude, they couldn't care less about the employees. Again, brother, it is the fucking Daily Wire, dude. What are we talking about? How are people so stupid? I'm gonna look at Ben Shapiro. I want to see what Ben Shapiro's YouTube page with 6.8
late on Thursday afternoon, American.
Let's do this. Socialist tells Ben Shapiro workers should own the means of production. 3.5 million views. Shapiro reacts to discussing race baiting. United Auto Workers strike explained. UNRWA workers be like professor hired after consensual relationship with coworker. Twitter employees melt down when asked to work hard. Ben Shapiro explains socialism. 12,000 Google employees laid off. Why woke Twitter employees hate Elon Musk. Help, my coworkers are intolerant liberals. What should I do? Ay, ay, ay. Who's standing with the workers? New leaked video shows Disney CEO grovel in front of employees. Are unaliving civilization. They run on politically paying laborers as little as possible. I mean, to be fair, I will say this. That was a little bit of an old head Hasan moment of me to expect that Ben Shapiro's new videos would be talking about workers' rights, because that's old school Republican Party shit. Donald Trump did kind of change that with his populism a little bit and made it seem as though the Republican Party is aesthetically pro-worker. If you guys recall, back in the old days, the Republican Party, especially from like 70s onward and 60s and 50s onward, were so openly hostile to workers' rights. Like, just straight up, that was the thing that they advocated for. That's changed a little bit. That has certainly changed a little bit. And there is definitely a mystification on their position on working class people. They just like own the gay workers that work at Twitter, things of that nature. But that doesn't change the reality that, like, when push comes to shove, whenever they're talking about workers, you know Ben Shapiro is going to be the first to be like, guess what, dude? Workers ain't shit. They should be excited at the prospect of even having a job. That kind of sentiment and that kind of open hostility towards the workers is going to, of course, yield a hostile work environment, a shitty work environment. Anyway, let's continue.
Clearly not from people on the left, but rather conservatives who went in there hoping to make a difference, only to find themselves exploited by their employer, using their passion for political change to extract as much labor out of them as possible. While it's doubtful I agree with the politics of any of these people, I still think as workers they are deserving of some level of respect and good treatment by their employers. Whether or not that's living up to their conservative values, you can judge for yourselves, but at the very least, the people leaving angry reviews seem to think that these values weren't their conservative values. But where does any of that leave Brett Couper? There's a trend right now of people trying to figure out whether popular figures in the media are industry plants, and there are certainly people in Brett Couper's audience that believe she is one. But I think there's a bit more going on here. First, let's look at a history of the term industry plant from Bubblegum Club. The term industry plant is derived colloquially from hip-hop, which is understood to mean an artist who has a major indie label backing their movement but presents themselves as a homegrown startup, create the illusion of an organic following. The definition of an industry plant doesn't negate any prior work an artist has done in their past before their label. However, it just questions the legitimacy of one's growth and establishment in the industry. The problem with this term is outlined in this article, and
what's sad to me is that TYT repeats that dumb joke. Wait, dude, that would be really funny if Jank, my uncle, was like, yeah, he is a nepotism recipient trust fund baby. It's like, bitch, where's the trust fund? You're my family member. You know there's no trust fund. No, I don't think Jank has said that. As a matter of fact, Jank literally was going to bring up how I openly recognize my privilege and how I am a recipient of nepotism on a regular basis in that commentary, but chose not to, you know, have a visible public argument. I don't know why people are still trying to make like drama work. So, you know, like I have said from the jump, Jank is my family. I love him. Anna is like family. I've known her for 20 years. I do not care. We have political disagreements. That's fine and dandy. But ultimately, you know, I wish them well. I hope that, you know, I hope that whatever's going on is resolved. But it's not even coming from Jank's side, I don't think. To be fair, not Jank Mo's Anna. Yeah, I don't think Jank would say some shit like that. Also, regardless, I don't even have hate or anger or animosity in my heart towards Anna Kasparian either. I don't care.
And several others. The desire to point out someone as a plant often ignores talent they may genuinely have, and is often hard to distinguish from the process of how big media companies find new talent. It's also giving companies that rely on talent far too much credit in their presentation. An article in Loud and Quiet explains it well. There are many reasons why industry plants are a bogus construct. The first, most glaring and unsurmountable, is that if there was some kind of ready-made workable formula to break young artists into overnight sensations and viral megastars, then we'd be drowning in industry plants. That would be the de facto industry method. When applying this loose label to Brett Couper, we have to be even more careful, as the article also highlights how this term has been used to target women. The overwhelming majority of artists attacked and accused of being plants are young women, the idea being that they are not capable of attaining talent, fame, and success on their own at such a young age, with no help, and therefore are immediately suspect. In the Daily Wire's case, Brett Couper is far from the only obscure talent they've found and groomed for the spotlight. Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Ben Shapiro have all been, to varying degrees, polished and marketed to a wider wider audience. A 2018 Vanity Fair article in particular highlights how Ben Shapiro was groomed for the spotlight and is very much a precursor of what would later be done for Brett Couper. And we can see the limitations of the Daily Wire's ability to create stars when we look at its less successful commentators. If they were truly capable of taking anyone from anywhere and simply...
Have you seen the video of the trans woman describing her privates as foods at Disney World? No, but that seems like straight rage bait. I have no idea what that
turning
is.
them into a popular conservative commentator, we wouldn't have such a wide range of success, such as when you compare Ben Shapiro or Brett Couper to the far less successful Michael Knowles and the
Do you think any of these freaks truly believe what they preach? Yes. I think Ben Shapiro believes a lot of the commentary. I think Matt Walsh absolutely believes in the shit that he says. I don't think Michael Knowles believes it as much. I think he's just like you can kind of tell like Matt Walsh 100% is like a hateful little gremlin. Ben, hateful little gremlin. Michael Knowles probably doesn't believe everything, but is just kind of saying the whatever the needs to be said. Tucker Carlson doesn't believe all of the things that he says either, but knows what to say. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter because Tucker Carlson definitely believes the most nefarious part of his agenda, which is WASP supremacy. You can tell that they believe it by the dedication to their uploads and streams. I can't speak on that old guy. I don't know what's up with that guy. I've never really seen him.
Even far less successful Crane and Company. The Daily Wire can only go so far in creating these conservative commentators. I think it's clear that Brett Couper is bringing some degree of talent into this role. In Alice Sherwood's book, Authenticity, Reclaiming Reality in a Counterfeit Culture, she recounts the story of how Snapple went from a quirky upstart beverage brand to being sold to a big corporation and stripped of its spirit, and then sold again, this time to a private equity firm, and then proceeded to rebound, seemingly recreating its old quirky self. But it did so not in returning to its roots and its original recipe of being 100% juice, but instead adopting the signifiers of being that authentic juice. In 2011, the front label of a bottle of Snapple might have said it was apple juice and all natural, but the back revealed it was only 10% pear juice and had some mysterious natural flavors.
I think Dave Rubin does not believe the shit that he says. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think Dave Rubin is more of a consequence of like grifting, wanting to make money, thinking that there's a good avenue for him out there, and constantly being at odds with like how reactionary the conservative movement is, because the more gains that they make, the more that they end up harming Dave Rubin because he's gay. So, I mean, this literally happened to a certain degree to Ben Shapiro. A lot of old school fans who are brain broken know that Ben Shapiro used to write at Breitbart, Andrew Breitbart's newspaper, rest in piss, Andrew Breitbart. When Ben Shapiro used to write at Breitbart, Breitbart had a tab called Black Crime, as in they specifically, you could go to the website and click on it and just see all of the black crime that was happening in America. Ben Shapiro had no issue with this tab. Ben probably liked that this tab existed, but Ben Shapiro left Breitbart for a key reason. Why? Because they hired Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo Yiannopoulos was a Nazi. Milo Yiannopoulos openly was trying to highlight Nazis, and not Nazis in the sense that like Nazis who are chill with Israel type Nazis, Nazis who literally were like, oh no, Jews are actually controlling the media type Nazis. Ben left Breitbart, not because of all the other racist shit, but only because maybe he was a little uncomfortable with how comfortable Breitbart writers were with actual anti-Semitic Nazis. Ultimately, this happens all the time. If you're conservative and you're not like a purebred white, there is going to be a layer of marginalization that ends up oppressing you as well. Something to consider.
In her book, Sherwood writes, it takes more muscles to doubt than it does to believe. What the shopper sees at first sight in a convenience store or supermarket is what they are most likely to believe. What this encapsulates so well is what's being sold is a vibe. The product exists and might even be tasty, as pears supposedly have an appley flavor, but the packaging is doing the heavy lifting here, telling the person they're about to enjoy some apple juice that's all natural. It's just enough of that authenticity to get someone to buy the product when the product is just a cheaply produced knockoff of the thing or feeling the packaging is supposed to remind a person of. This is at the heart of Brett Couper's inauthentic channel. She has the talent to, at least for a little while, attract an audience. That's not nothing, but her channel isn't just a showcase of her raw talent. It's wrapped up in something else, a branding that presents her as a regular person having fun on the internet in her bedroom bedroom, when the reality is she's working for a company that uses conservative branding to make money. Brett Couper is the 10% pear juice in a bottle-marked apple. The conservative commentator for Gen Z presents a counterfeit politics to maintain an audience to generate.
You want to tell me that 200 armed Hamas members that died in the operation as Israeli fanboys claimed they were only capable to kill a single IDF soldier? Holy moly, that sounds like they were a real threat to Israel's existence. Yeah, because it wasn't 200 armed... Oh, shit. Sorry. That was a biter. It wasn't 200 armed Hamas members that died in the operation. That person is just baiting. He's saying that, like, yeah, armed Hamas children
generate ad revenue. But let's just remember that the problem is not Brett Couper. In the same way industry plants are agonized over because of the influence music labels have on what we hear, what all this concern over Brett Couper's authenticity really highlights is the power of conservative media. Not just the Daily Wire, but the many right-wing media outlets from Fox News to Blaze Media. The money and power of these companies cannot be underestimated, and their ability to exploit the energy of talented individuals and pull them into their messaging is part of their success. What Brett Couper best serves us is another example of how these media companies market themselves through deception. The only other part of Brett Couper's career I haven't really touched on is how the Daily Wire is positioning her to be their go-to person for numerous acting projects. Since she signed on with the company, I'm not sure there's a single production of theirs she hasn't acted in. She was a newscaster in Lady Ballers.
To be fair, they do that for all the Daily Wire talent, I'm pretty sure, including but not limited to Candace Owens, who formerly was at the Daily Wire and was supposed to be a part of this like Brickleberry cutout, whatever the this Adam Carolla show is. She was cut out, of course, after Ben Shapiro realized that Candace Owens wasn't just anti-Semitic, which would have been perfectly fine by Ben Shapiro, as he's said time and time again, but also anti-Israel.
Provided one of the voices on both Chip Chilla and Mr. Bertram. She's appearing in the upcoming dramatic series The Pendragon Cycle and star.
Who is this girl? Is it wrong? I'm kind of feeling her. You, my friend, are a fucking simp, okay? I don't know how else to describe this other than the fact that you are an unimaginable simp, a simp of epic proportions. This is all it takes for some of you dumb. Oh my lord. Down cataclysmic, down abysmally. Please just, I wouldn't say stop gooning. I would say jerk off before you type. Because like normally, this would be real sexist, right? What I'm saying would be real sexist if I was simply saying, oh, you're a simp because you're coming in to defend a female content creator. Except in this circumstance, this person has not given you anything for you to be like, oh yeah, she's doing a great job. She is a right-wing commentator who is inauthentic ultimately, and the entire video is about how she is inauthentic and promoting conservative ideals and ideologies, but while masquerading it tonally in the most like neutral ways possible. And yet you still find yourself falling for the grift. So obviously there's only one aspect of what she's presenting that you find to be good. That's it.
Starring in Snow White and the Evil Queen. There isn't too much to say about these projects I haven't already mentioned in previous videos, though if you truly want me to endure Mr. Bertram, let me know and I guess I'll look.
How are most men like this and women are not like that? Are you kidding me? Brett Couper, alongside many conservative commentators for years, have been avid followers of mine. I can't speak for Brett personally, but no, there are definitely conservative women who are like this as well, with the hopes that they can maybe change me, fix me as well. Women get horny too. The idea that women don't get horny is silly.
Look into making a video about it. As a closing thought though, while researching this video, I was left wondering what authenticity even means in the YouTube space. A lot of what we see Brett Couper and the Daily Wire doing isn't entirely unique. Other companies have tried to buy their way into the influencer space to varying levels of success in the past, using the aesthetics of grassroots content creators to create the impression of being authentic voices in this space. But does adopting that style have an impact on the person actually taking up that role? Authenticity is a tough word to pin down sometimes, but an article in Psychology Today that I found while researching for this video made me reflect on this.
Corinna used to ask you to change her, funny enough. Yeah, well, I failed in that project, didn't I? Quite spectacularly, as a matter of fact. If you look at Corinna Koff nowadays, I mean, she's like deep in the gambling meta, cake streamer, very invested in that space. And I think routinely talks about how she's like a Republican or whatever. I don't even know. I haven't really been paying attention. Yeah, I remember when she was dropping 500 sub bombs in here. Those were the good days, man. Those were the days. She was one of my Oilers, 100%. Y'all watching my TikTok while I'm at my shift, fake as Thank you, Kirby Virgo. We did watch your TikTok while you were on your shift. Great TikTok. And it was a
One
banger.
part read, studies show that the self you create and express in virtual spaces influences your belief, or lack thereof, in your real world self. Avatars are not without consequence, so take them, but not yourself, seriously. Identity is an all-the-time, rest of your life process of becoming, and technology is here to stay. Negotiating that intersection can be confusing, and there will probably be missteps, but you need not settle for being a bland avatar. Give yourself permission to be a bold, whole person that you can be proud of, in flesh and pixels alike. When that virtual self is paired with a profit incentive, it seems less authentic to me, and that performance of authenticity impacted by that profit incentive has an impact on the performer as well. We become the people we pretend to be, after all. It's something I've felt in myself too. While operating this channel, I've learned so much about other people and their circumstances, and I've felt myself become more empathetic to causes and perspectives I've never considered. Before starting this channel, I could say it's terrible to lie about someone's murdered loved one for a propaganda video, but I didn't know what that rage felt like until I found Lauren Southern doing just that in her Borderlands movie. And even now, I can still feel that anger lingering in my belly. On the other hand, when I read about how much something as simple as an identity being realized by a character in a sitcom can mean so much for the person it represents, the whole thing carries a greater weight. It's not just a nice thing to have, but an important gesture telling someone that they too get to be part of popular culture. There's also the darker side though, as the negativity that swirls around topics and figures urges me to be harsher and less understanding towards them, or competing voices tell me to sell out my convictions with the promise of profits and a false sense of balance. There are so many pressures urging creators in directions they never imagined for themselves when they start this YouTube journey. Not all of them bad, but not all of them good either. And I'm sure it's incredibly difficult for anyone trying to figure out just how to navigate this space without losing something important in yourself. There are a lot of phonies and fakes in this political commentary space on the right and the left.
To be fair, that's the thing I don't like about like grifting as well. I honestly only care about grifting as far as like what the output is. I'll be honest with you, because I think that like some content creators, depending on which way the winds are blowing, will like kind of be left leaning, and I don't necessarily have an issue with that as long as they remain true to that and then shut the fuck up when the issues turn around with a right wing shift and they don't end up leaning on that front. Grifting only matters when people's attitudes, when people's like opinions are malleable and they will use their platform for evil, for right-wing politics, for pushing a right-wing agenda. Does that make sense to you? Like people always ask me like, do you think this person is authentic? That person is authentic. Do you think that this person believes what he says? You guys asked me this question as well. What's really interesting about it is it was a question that was asked, a question that was directed at me by the Iced Coffee podcast, Graham Stevens podcast that I went on the second time. Jose used a bunch of clips from Iced Coffee in this video as well, because they interviewed Brett Couper as well. And they asked me like, oh, do you think that, this person is authentic? That person is authentic. And in that question, when they asked me that question, I said this exact same thing. I was like, I don't really care about the grift of it all. I don't really care if a person like doesn't believe any of the things that they're saying, but they're still pushing a right-wing framework. I care about the right-wing framework being pushed. That's what I care about. You know, if someone is an asshole and a right-wing political commentator, but they're authentically an asshole and a right-wing political commentator, that doesn't actually change the equation all that much for me. I don't think anyone is authentic, but that's my experience as a black Arab woman in America. So just my opinion, they tend to not like us IRL white liberals. That is, no, that's entirely separate conversation. I'm specifically talking about right-wing commentators and left-wing commentators, blah, 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 like political commentators in general. I personally don't care if Ben Shapiro is authentically who he is, or if he's a socialist in secret. I care about Ben Shapiro's output. If Ben Shapiro never made another video tomorrow and then chose to be a right-wing guy ultimately in his day-to-day, then I wouldn't care about it as much. He's putting right-wing agitprop out there.
Left. And I'm not entirely convinced that Brett Couper is one of them, at least not yet. When watching her videos, she'll often have like a line or two where she reflects a kind of kindness and sympathy towards the subject she's discussing. There doesn't seem to be that level of cruelty or harshness you see from someone like Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder or Tim Pool or many of the other commentators who have been doing this for far longer than she has. This, I think, is one of the long-standing impacts of doing this work. Adopting that harsher messaging is, I think, part of how this platform changes you. It hardens you and calcifies your opinions, and it dehumanizes the other side so much that it becomes so much easier to use the most hyperbolic language in describing them. And it's a shame to see someone who's only 22 years old falling into that.
Are you saying the entire political right wing is evil and unnecessary? It depends. This is a vague generalization, right? Like what I believe is right wing and what you believe is right wing could be entirely different things. But overall, I do think, yes, I do think that like we could do without for sure.
Same trap. Maybe it's simply too late for her and she'll keep producing these terrible videos, getting increasingly harsh and mean and hardened by this space. And that will be her new authentic self. Perhaps the one lesson for at least me or any other YouTube creator to take from this whole video is to not let this website turn us into what it has turned so many other people into. One thing I think Brett Couper really represents is a growing trend in conservative media spaces when it comes to presenting these stories, relying far more on vague feelings and vibes and the barest minimum of evidence to support a claim. It makes it boring for me when there isn't interesting rabbit holes to dive in or research projects to undertake, because what is there to say to someone who is just flatly stating their opinion and not really backing it up with anything more than some empty rhetoric and poor reasoning? But even so, I hope this digression into authenticity and how that's reflected in creators in this space was in some way helpful to you and was interesting, and perhaps you'd like to see me get a little more experimental in my future videos, and you can do that by pledging your support through my Patreon, like the lovely names you see coming up the screen here. You can also join them by becoming a member on YouTube. If you'd like to support the video in a non-monetary fashion, you can like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share this video on social media, and just keep on being wonderful.
And get HasanAbi Piker to react to it. Great video overall.